Hey, I'm Madelyn Keys, and you're watching the Permanent Rain Press.
Hi everyone, it's Chloe with the Permanent Rain Press. Today I'm so happy to be joined by Madelyn Keys. How are you?
I'm so excited to be here. I've watched a lot of your interviews, and you just asked such insightful questions, and I am stoked.
I'm so excited to chat with you about your work in finding her edge as Adriana. There's so much to unpack with your character, but before we get into the new project, what can you share about your background in the arts and what sparked that passion in you?
I think it's something that I have always loved. Like my first memory is when, I don't know, I was maybe like 6 or 7. I was visiting some cousins in like rural California, and we were at this town where you could like it was a kid town, but you could like pan for gold in the river and mine for gold. I don't know. And there was a play of Huckleberry Finn going on, and everyone else was like, let's go find gold. And I was like, I will sit here until this play is done. And I just loved it. And so, yeah, I had some opportunities growing up to get a little more involved in acting. I followed a friend to an open call audition. I got a job one day. And then as I was growing up, I'm from Ottawa, and I went to what I like to affectionately call like our high school musical school. So, it was a public school, but you had to audition if you wanted to get into an arts program. And I absolutely loved being there. I learned so much about, the arts in general, sort of the craft of acting, if you will, but also like how to be a collaborator that people want to work with, and how to, build a team.
That's so wonderful. And I know that you were part of different high school productions, so you also got to gain experience that way. When you look back at those times, like, are they just like building blocks for you? They must have been so much fun to participate in.
Oh my gosh, so much fun. I think I probably should have gotten a little more sleep than I did. There were like so many days I'd be there from like 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. just like the world is resting on this play. What you don't understand. There's so much happening. But it was wonderful to be surrounded by people who really care. I think in high school especially there's like a coolness that is associated with like apathy towards everything. And I think just being surrounded by a bunch of nerds who wanted to do something fun, it just lights a passion in your soul. And I loved being a part of that.
It really makes a difference when everyone cares. They're not doing this just for the sake of doing it. They're doing it because they're interested and want to put on a good production and a good product. You are also a writer and emerging director and producer. So, what stories and themes are you drawn towards and want to tell in your work?
That's a huge question. It's like all your future dreams. Can you put them in one sentence, please? But I think for me, I want to see the kinds of characters that I think I always wanted to play, or I knew my friends wanted to play, but didn't necessarily get the opportunities to for a bunch of various reasons. So for me, particularly, that's drawn to strong female characters. I'm the thing that I love most, and I would love to create is the kind of work in those moments when the character is going through something emotionally, and they cut all of the sound, or they're nobody's speaking, and just you as the audience get to fill in your own experiences into that. And I think it is work that creates characters that are relatable enough that you get to put your own experiences onto them. And I think that is more impactful for an audience than any story I would be able to write could ever be.
It's always a fascinating thing to be able to leave something up to interpretation as well.
Hmm.
And like you mentioned, getting to kind of fill in those blanks with a viewer's own experience. Are there any scripts you're currently developing or pitching that you can tell me about?
Oh my God, I would love to. Absolutely. I have two that are either at pitching stage or like just before that. The first one, both of them I've been working on for a number of years, and both of them I have co-collaborators on. The first one, so I'm from Ottawa. Ottawa is known as like the Christmas movie capital of the world. We do Christmas movies more than everybody else. And I was working on one of these Christmas movies, and I met a friend of mine, Alexa Vazos, who is a little person. We started talking about representation of little people in Christmas movies specifically, and we thought, wouldn't it be cool if we wrote a Christmas movie that starred a little person and that had nothing to do with the plot whatsoever? And so we were fortunate enough to get some arts funding to film, or to get the first script done, as well as to pay 4 disability consultants to work on that. So that is one that I'm really, really excited about. We probably have one more draft we need to get through before it's ready to be pitched, but I'm stoked about that. And the second one was written by another actor friend of mine, Connor McMahon, and myself, and it's inspired by an experience that he had, like an interaction with a musician, really, and we sort of wanted to build out that world of what that, I don't know, what that person's life could have looked like, I guess, without giving too much away. But it's a story about music and passion, and its impacts on family and the people who live adjacent lives that are still impacted by one person's decision. So I'm really excited about those. If anyone is watching and is excited about those, send me an email. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Those sound so fascinating, and must be so rewarding for you to be able to, meet these people and share the same kind of vision and view of storytelling. And I know I've kind of seen in the past that some themes that are important to you are like mental health, feminism, disability activism, queer stories. So to be able to kind of delve into that side behind the scenes, as well as being in front of the camera, just must give you so many, new perspectives as an actor, and being able to basically be a part of all facets.
Totally. And I think I think of myself as like a bit of a generalist. I like to know a little bit about a lot of things, but I think there is value in doing that. I think when you understand the complexities of someone else's job, not only do you have more empathy for them while they're doing it, but you also understand how like such a little thing that you could do can make someone else's life and job way easier. And I strive for that. I hope for that.
Well, I look forward to the next steps. Hopefully, like once you get these scripts, and then there's like more funding, and then hopefully we get to see those made someday in the future. You've been very busy though with you have your current project that you're promoting. You did post a photo on Instagram with Jennifer Lawrence, and I know that there were some people commenting on the trailer that you resembled both Jennifer and the other wonderful actress Emily Browning. How did your encounter with Jennifer come to be, and what's been your reaction to the celebrity lookalike discourse?
Oh, I mean, I love it. I mean, it's worked for them. They've had successful careers, so why would I suddenly not want that for myself? Yeah, I mean, I think they're both talented, smart, beautiful women who also like live very private lives, which is a thing that I really respect and would also love to emulate. So hopefully that is passed through facial structure. I don't know. And as for the photo with Jennifer Lawrence, it's a bit of a long story. I'll pare it down for you because I know we don't have too much time. But one of my first jobs I ever got was this non-union short film that shot in Montreal, shot over the course of like a week or something like that. But the director of that project was in town because she was working on the X-Men franchise. And so in working on that, she and another man who was working on the film as well invited me and my mom to come on set and be there. And I was the biggest Hunger Games fan that there ever was. I was like the most starstruck I've ever been in my life in that moment, just being like, hi, I love you so much. Nice to meet you. But we got to watch behind the monitors for a couple hours. And then I got to say a very quick hello, snapped a photo. And then actually a couple of years later, I got to work on the X-Men franchise. I worked on X-Men Dark Phoenix, and I was cut from it, which is so fine. That happens all the time. But yeah, that's how that whole thing came to be. But I know maybe we'll get to work together again as some sort of related people.
So the photo with Jennifer, that was during X-Men, was it Days of Future Past? That was like 2013.
Yes, good memory.
I did look that up. I was
Oh,
like, I
okay.
know
You
that
should have
they did
taken that. You
film
were like, oh,
back.
I have a great memory. I have an amazing memory.
It is really cool that those movies, some of them did film back east, though, in Canada,
Yeah.
so I can take credit for that. On a serious note, in 2022, I know that you went through some serious health issues. You've been transparent about some of it on Instagram. If you're comfortable sharing, can you talk a bit about what you and your body faced, your diagnosis, and your healing process with the support of your loved ones and your medical team?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And thank you for phrasing that question as if I'm comfortable with it. I appreciate that. Yeah, I got quite sick a few years ago. I spent about a year in bed is kind of how I phrase it. And I have not shared publicly what happened, and I'm not going to at this point in my career. And the reason being, I didn't like all my friends and family know I'm not private about it in that sense, but I didn't want that to become a part of my story, I guess, more so than just like a chapter. I wanted it like this is a thing that happened to me, but it's not who I am. I don't want it to be like Madelyn Keys blank and so yeah, I haven't because I didn't want commentary on like, well, this is what you should do. Have you tried this? Even if it's good natured, it can be a lot, or also like speculation about causation and stuff like that. So I wanted to in part say, hey, this is where I've been. I didn't quit. My body quit. But also just to show some empathy for anyone who could be going through a similar thing. And I think in the conversations that I've had with people, not going into specifics again makes it general enough for people to share their own experiences with me and connect to it a little more. I also think like as an actor, if you know something about me that you can Google, you may assume that that is correct. So maybe you assume that I can do less than you think, or less than I can actually do, and so you don't hire me for your job. Or maybe you think that I can do more, and so you're not willing to accommodate certain requests if I need them. And so having less information just opens the door for more conversations, and I think that is the healthiest thing to do. Does that answer your question?
It does, definitely. I feel like, you sharing, just like you mentioned, it's just a chapter of your life, though. You had so many kind and supportive comments from, I'm sure, many people who had no idea of what you had been going through, in the past couple of years. And you did mention running marathons, and you did
Oh,
that
I can
before,
totally
and
tell you about
you've
that.
continued to do that. In 2024, you ran like your first marathon after what you had gone through, and you expressed so much gratitude to the people who helped get you through your disability. You're such a warrior, and you also
Oh,
ran a
thank
half
you.
marathon last year as well. So how has it been
Yeah.
to kind of push your body to where you can, and the capabilities that you can still do?
Mm. Oh, thank you for that question. For anyone who's watching who doesn't know that story, so I had run a marathon with no training. Very silly of me. Nah, it was kind of funny. It worked out though. With a friend of mine a few years before I got sick, and then after I got sick, my sort of recovery goal was to run a marathon again faster than I did it with no training. And I did. I was able to do that. And I had dedicated, oh, thank you, each kilometer to someone who helped me get better. So that was like friends, that was family, that was medical staff. And I wrote everybody's name on my arm so I could be like, kilometer 1, you, kilometer 2, you. And I could like think about them. And then I wrote a bunch of emails that were really love letters. And I scheduled them to be sent at the time I was like on pace to be running it. So they would get it at the same time I was thinking about them. And yeah, I cried all day. I cried literally all day as I was running. I'm sure I could have been faster if I wasn't crying, but in a race like that, and really in any races, if you're not trying to be a professional, your pace doesn't matter, your speed doesn't matter. Do whatever you want, be happy. And yeah, I had 25 people showed up on the sidelines to cheer me on that day, and it was one of the happiest days of my whole life. And also the hardest. Marathons just suck, but yes.
That must have been so beautiful, despite, all the tears. Those are happy tears for
Absolutely.
you and everyone in your life who helped you get to that point. So, congratulations. I hope many more
Thank you.
marathons in your future, but also film projects. And that's what we will talk about now, finding her edge. Of course, we are discussing spoilers for all those watching, so please make sure you finish season one before continuing. What can you share about your audition process and what drew you to the character of Adriana Russo and wanting to be a part of this project?
So I really had no idea how big of a deal this would end up being when I initially auditioned. So it was under a working title at the time. So I didn't even know that there was a book associated with it. I didn't know there was any additional source material I could have looked into. I'm very type A. If you can't tell, I would have read that whole thing. But yeah, so there was that initial audition. I also didn't know that it would be for Netflix at the time. And so I think that's another level of whoa. And so what I knew was it was Jane Austen adjacent. I knew there was a love triangle. I knew it was skating, and I knew that I really liked the script. So the initial audition was two scenes from the first episode. It was that first sort of real reconnection with Freddie that is interrupted by Brayden, and also that big fight with Will, where she sort of acknowledges that she knows how bad the money situation is, and he says there's really nothing that you can do about it, and that's kind of the realization that she has. And so I mean, you talk to a lot of actors. I'm sure you know lots of people are like, okay, you film a great thing and then you're going to forget it ever happened because chances are you will not hear anything. And with this one, I mean, that was the same thing. I was keeping my fingers crossed a little bit, but you can't do too much. And I had heard that I was going to be going for a callback, but they wanted skating footage. And I said in my audition that I was a very average skater, was the exact wording that I used. I didn't want to lie. And I also wanted to be truthful. So I said, I'm a very average skater, but I've run multiple marathons. I was at the time I was training for a half Ironman. And so I was like, if you need someone to do a hard thing, to learn how to do a skill, that's me. But at that point they were like, we really need to see you on ice. I was like, okay, what am I going to do here? And it was just me. I had like 3 hours to get this. That's a lie. That's definitely, I had more time than that. I had maybe 24 hours to get something together. And I decided that I was going to make a vlog because I was like, here, you can get a little bit more personality. You can see that I can edit a video and I can do stuff that you might need me to do for social media. And so I went to a rink and I skated around on literal skates that had the twisty knobs. They weren't even real figure skates. And I filmed some skills that I look back on and I go, ooh, what did they see in her? But along the way, I had two very kind strangers who had offered to help teach me. And so I had footage in there as well of Fred and Mary, who were teaching me how to get my crossovers and things like that. So I had combined all that footage together. So I had sent that in. I was proud of it. And I went to my, what ended up being, it was a callback. And then the following day was chemistry reads. So it was a full sort of thing. It was all over Zoom. And I had first met our showrunner, Jeff Norton. And the first thing he said to me was, that video went viral among our casting team. I was like, yes, I might deserve to be here. I can do this. It really just put me at ease. And so we had that callback, ran through some scenes. I had to learn 17 pages, I think, in 24 hours ish for that. So it was the most I'd ever had to do. And I just got everyone that I could to run lines with me and give me some feedback. And then the following day we had the chemistry reads, and there were two Braydens and there were two Freddies at the time, both all wonderful actors. And it was really interesting just to be called in and out of Zoom meetings and then be like, okay, shake it off, get ready, whoo, next one. But yeah, I loved doing it. I loved meeting everybody, and I got the call that I got the job that night.
I mean, it's so interesting to look back on this huge journey. You clearly remember so much of it. And I mean, did Fred and Mary know? Like, did you were you able
They
to
don't
secretly?
know. Okay. So I got the job and I was like, you know what I'm going to do? Because I had gone to a public skate to film that. It was like the only one that was open wherever I was at the time. And I had gone to the bank and I had gotten like two $100 bills. And I was like, I'm going to find them and I'm going to give them $100. I'm going to say, thank you so much for helping me. I got this job. And I went like 3 times in a row and I've never found them. So if anyone knows Fred and Mary, please tell them thank you for me. But if you don't know Fred and Mary, don't go looking for them. That's weird.
I mean, I hope it gets to them at some point, you know, maybe when the
Yeah.
show premieres, because to know that, you know, these people took time out of their day to help you for this
Yes.
audition. They obviously had no idea like maybe what was going on, that now this is a Netflix show, but it's so nice to look back at these people who helped you get to the place where you are, and you got
Mhm.
the part, and I'm so excited for you, and your work in the show is incredible. So
Oh,
we'll
thank
talk a
you.
bit about, you know, building that character. What specific elements did you draw from Jennifer's novel to help you bring her to life? And were there any other key reference points that you drew inspiration from?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so Jennifer's book is also inspired by Jane Austen's Persuasion. So it's kind of like a broken telephone game of like connecting pieces. And I think the commonalities between our show, the book, and the original book really lie in the characters' personalities as well as their relationship dynamics. So it's hard to take specifics from either when a lot of the plots change. But I really think a lot of the internal dialogue of like things that I'm thinking in my head while we are doing a scene, while I am saying other written lines, which is kind of convoluted, but that's truly what I mean. There were a lot of those moments. I think I took inspiration from both, and honestly, the greatest resources is has been that I have become very good friends with Jen, who wrote Finding Her as Jennifer Capelli, and so I can just go to her and be like, "What do you think? Can we talk about this?" And she has just been so game to do that. So honestly, the biggest inspiration has been being able to talk to her, and also of course our writers and our directors throughout the series. And I think personal experience as well. I think I share a lot of things with Adriana, the good and the bad, but hopefully more of the good. And just being able to pull those all together to create something. But what I think is wonderful about being part of kind of a content ecosystem, I guess, is that you're going to find pieces that you like in either option, right? So if you love something about the show, you're going to find it in the books. If there's something you didn't like about one of the books, you can maybe find a different option in the show. And so I think that meshes together really well.
Playing an ice dancer, how much research and preparation did you do with respect to the sport, and how did it inform you and your mindset?
Great question. I have always been a huge fan of figure skating. That has always been core to me. I can tell you, like, I was in the third booth on the right in a Boston Pizza when Tessa and Scott won gold with Moulin Rouge. Like, I was there in the Boston Pizza, not at the Olympics, but maybe one day. And so I had always sort of followed that closely. But when I got this role, it was a lot of physical training. So I was trying to get on the ice as much as I could with like helmet, face guards, wrist guards, knee pads, elbows, everything. Did not want to get hurt and lose my job. So I think learning the physical routine plays a part in like what kind of person do you have to be to spend this much time on the ice, to spend this much time learning choreography, to like try as best you can to separate your feelings from what you have to portray on the ice. And it's similar to acting as well, as like if you're having a bad day but you're playing a happy scene, you better figure out a way to make that work. And I think the same thing can happen with high level athletes. I watched a lot of documentaries, and my biggest blessing has been my incredible skating double, Nadiia Bashynska. I adore her. She is so cool and talented. And so the really hard stuff is her. I had sort of I like to say general Canadian skating ability before, like we learned to skate in gym class. But there is so much more to the sport than what I knew previously. And so it's been really lovely to learn a new hobby and have it stick in my life. I try to get on the ice at least twice a week, just myself for fun. And so I love it.
You used to compete in downhill ski racing, so
You did so much
you did
research.
have like a bit
Ah,
of, that competitive edge in you, like going
yeah.
into the show.
Yeah, I also think like skiing and skating are quite similar. Like there's like a when you are on flat ground and you're on skis, like they call it like skating, right? You're like skating, it's the same motion. And so that always made sense to my brain. But if you can imagine like when I think I'm on skates, I just pretend I'm on skis. And so when they say, okay, take this foot and put it over this foot, I go, that doesn't work. No,
You're
no,
still
and I'm
like
just gonna fall.
visualizing you having like
Yes,
the skis on you.
yes. I'm like, they're gonna break. What do you mean?
Your stunt doubles, I mean, we got to see obviously close-ups. You did a lot of like the arm choreography and movement in
Uh-huh.
rehearsals, but you were talking about Nadiia. You went to see her compete at Canadian Nationals just earlier
Hmm.
this month. So how much fun was it to really be involved in that world? I'm sure you heard from Nadiia, but a lot of these athletes, you're skating day in and day out with competitors, but also friends. So you mentioned like separating that personal and professional nature
Hmm.
of it too.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just got to be friends with these people for the most part. The professional stuff, like they skated and then I showed up, and so we just got to be there and have fun. And another really cool thing about Nadia is she is an incredible choreographer as well. And throughout the show, she started kind of to become one of our choreographers. So she would show up and she would say, "Nah, Maddie, don't put your arms like that. That looks goofy," in a very kind and respectful way. And so that was cool. But the whole skating community, everyone that I have interacted with has been so kind and welcoming. Like I'll go into a public skate locker room and be like, "Hey, I'm Maddie," and they'll be like, "Are you working on that show?" And I'm like, "I am," and we just have a wonderful time. Or on our show, we had a lot of like special skills background who are like competitive skaters to be able to skate for any of the background footage that we needed. And between takes, I would go hang out and be like, "What can you teach me?" And everyone was so excited to share this sport that they love with everybody. I also I think that being a part of the world is also interacting with, I guess, our celebrity guests. This is a spoiler episode. This is coming out later, so I can talk about this. But of course, Elvis Stoico and Piper and Paul. Wow, wow. As competitors, as athletes, also as people, beautiful, incredibly talented people. But it's just like it's such a weird moment to be like I texted Piper that I got my waltz jump. That's crazy. If you told me that a year ago, I would say, what? And so it has just expanded my worldview. And another thing, this is a little bit off topic, but I thought about this before, is I think I think both the acting worlds and the athlete worlds can have some very strict opinions on female body types, I think. And coming from an acting world and starting to see more body types of athletes, I go, oh my gosh, this should be the ideal. The ideal of I want functionally strong, I want happy, I want fit, versus like a certain aesthetic. And I think that was a real beautiful moment for me to go, why would I want to be anything else other than capable and strong? And yeah, I wanted to slip that in there.
I love that because it's something that I feel like is so true. And this is coming from like an outside perspective, but there can be a lot of, criticism, or you're wondering like, why is this necessary to do? Like, why can't we just celebrate how these women look? And,
Hmm.
especially women athletes, they're so strong in any sport, but figure skating as
Yeah.
well. I'm sure you're so excited to cheer Piper and Paul on at the
Ah,
Olympics
so
just
excited.
next month. So you'll be watching intently to see what they do. And they have such phenomenal skates this year. So
Hmm.
fingers crossed. But to get back to Adriana, she lost her mother 2 years ago. Can you expand upon how her absence has affected Adriana personally, as well as her relationships with her father and sisters?
Hmm. I mean, I think Jennifer and I were actually talking about this earlier today, but I think none of these people grieved the way they should have. It's still there. It's coming up in a bunch of different ways. And obviously grief is not something that there's no final destination with grief. It's always going to change. But I think a lot of them are repressing things that they should have worked through differently. And I think for Adriana, her mother passing was kind of the first real hardship that she had to experience, like she comes from a very privileged upbringing of like, your parents are Olympians and she has this house that has 1 million rooms in it and all these different things, and she can skate right outside when she wants to. And so I think there was a big reality shift in, oh, like everything's not going to be okay. I don't know if I can believe that anymore, actually. And the way that she tries to handle that is by trying to be in control of as much as she can. And even when it's things that are kind of outside of her reach, she's trying to convince the people who can control them to control them. I think in her relationship with her father, she starts to see some of his flaws. She starts to see him as a real human being. And not only is that because I think her mother was probably hiding that from them a bit, but also like she was someone who could talk reason into him in a way that Adriana can't right now. And I think it definitely brought her closer to her younger sister, Maria. I think that's something that like Adriana has sort of stepped in that role. And I think with Elise, it kind of brought them further apart because I think they handle it in very different ways. Like Elise, she talks about it more. She grieves it, I guess, more publicly, but she does it on her own. And it was never something that really brought them together. And I wish it had for them. I really want that for them.
I mean, there's always the potential there, as we'll talk about, how their relationship kind of evolves throughout the season.
Mhm.
You mentioned with her dad, like how hard has it been for Adriana because she's helped Will run Russo Rank the past couple of years. She's started to question his actions, but she constantly has her concerns dismissed by him. Like, is there a part of her that has bought into his insistence that he will fix it all very soon?
Not anymore. I think at the time we reach her in the story, like I'm sure it happened at one point, but I think at this point in the story, what would reassure Adriana is if her dad sat her down and said, yeah, everything is falling apart and I'm really scared and I don't know what to do, because I think she almost visualizes it as like, it's like this cup has to be filled with worry. This is the amount of worry we need to have for the situation. If your cup is empty, mine has to be full. The water has to go somewhere. And so just to know that she isn't in it alone in the acknowledging what is happening. And of course, like Will is acknowledging it, but he is not doing so to her. His way of managing it is like, I'm telling you, you don't have to worry about it, so don't. And that just is not going to compute with her, even though it comes with the best of intentions.
Really well said. And for Adriana, like she's always been seen as like, daddy's perfect angel. Like
Mm-hmm.
she's the one who will agree with the dad. And we see that come to a fault later when Elise is the first one to kind of walk out and say, like, I think this is so unacceptable.
Yeah.
What is the role of Camille in Adriana's life? Like, how does she fill the space of a mother figure and as her figure skating coach?
I love Camille. Isn't she such a great character? And Meredith, an incredible actor. I think, I mean, Camille is inspired by Lady Russell in, again, The Broken Telephone, two back. And really that character serves as a confidant. And I know, like Jennifer has talked about, like writing Camille as like, these are the things I would want to tell the characters, even though they're not going to listen right now. I think Camille is kind of the only person who sees Adriana's situation as clearly as she does. I think Adriana she can't talk to anybody about it. She can't talk to her sisters. She can't talk to her dad in the same way. Like she feels she has to hold this responsibility and keep it to herself to protect them, which again is exactly what she hates her father for doing. It's how it works sometimes. And so I think with Camille, she feels she can be a kid outside of their coaching dynamics. But I also, I feel within the coaching dynamics, like she knows she can be pushed hard, but she knows Camilla's not going to ask her to do something she's not capable of doing.
Adriana is adamant that she does not want to skate with Brayden despite his objective talent on ice, but Elise's injury forces her to reconsider. Were her motivations purely driven by the fate of the rink, or had she been chasing that feeling for some time and really did miss the ice?
Well, I think even in asking that question, you know exactly where I'm gonna go with it. I absolutely think it's nuanced. There is of course, like, this is a thing that she can do, that she can try, that could possibly work, and in her world of, you know, skating well equates to money, this is more realistic for her than, like, let's get a part-time job. And so I think that is part of it. I think there absolutely has been a part of her that is missing that magic feeling, as she calls it, like throughout the first episode. And I think when she sees Freddie again, and there is definitely some feelings of jealousy that come up, seeing him with Riley, even if she doesn't want it to be there. I think part of it is not on the surface to make him jealous, but I think part of it is like, okay, this isn't going to happen anymore. What could I do? And while it is unlike her, I think she acknowledges that what she has tried so far hasn't been working. And so what are the other options? Here's one. Camille thinks it's a good idea. She hasn't led me astray, except for that other time with Freddie, but we're not going to talk about that one. And so this is what she's going to try.
What's interesting for Adriana is, you know, despite her kind of, you know, having a bit of that fear, maybe losing a bit of that love for the ice after her mother's passing, is she didn't like go and get another part-time job in town. You know, she's still working at the family rink, still being around these other skaters in that world that she's so accustomed to. We're, of course, not witness to Freddie and Adriana's past partnership on ice and romantically. So how did you and Ollie work together to build that chemistry and history? And can you articulate what Freddie meant to her before his departure from her life 2 years ago?
I mean, Ollie and I have talked about this. I think Freddie has always been so important to her. And I also think his place in her life almost becomes even more important after her mother dies and after they like leave each other's life, because he kind of becomes a symbol to her of like, this is who you were with, this is who you loved, this is who you spent your time with when you were happy, you know, when you felt you could relax, when you could be a kid. And so with Freddie, there is this familiarity, there is this shared sense that they fundamentally understand each other, even though all this time has passed and they have kind of become different people. Now, as we talk about their sort of romantic dynamics as they come back together, I think almost all of that is new, because it feels like, yes, they had this connection before, but that bridge was absolutely shattered. And so what they find together still needs to feel new in order for it to feel like they're not just sort of ignoring what has happened between them before.
Can you take me through the train scene in episode 2? Like, from Adriana's perspective, she goes to convince Brayden to give their partnership a chance. What made her think her actions would give her a fighting shot? And was it all for show, or was that near kiss at the end maybe indicating some unexplained or unplaced feelings?
I wonder, perhaps. So that train sequence, that was actually my first day of shooting. So it was we were right into it, me and Kale, but we figured it out. I think in that moment, she has already been rejected by Brayden. She has already tried, and he said, this isn't going to work out. And so I think Adriana has sort of felt like, okay, fine, I will abandon who I am. I will be whoever you need me to be for this to work. And so I think in doing that, in sort of turning off that part of her brain that feels like it has to be regimented and looking out for everything in every moment, she starts I think by that end of the sequence, that near kiss is she is doing a thing that she is not thinking about. And so maybe she would have that inclination in a different moment, but because she has sort of turned that part of herself off intentionally, it comes out stronger. And then it as they start to skate together, that she like really pulls back, at least for a while.
It is almost like that inhibition thing when you know, like you mentioned, she has to turn on and off, like losing those inhibitions, maybe giving in a bit more freely
Hmm.
than she typically would in terms of her personality. What motivated her to borrow Elise's earrings from their late mother for the magazine shoot, and how did she feel after the fact?
This is such a great question. I had the same one when I read the script of like, what are you doing, girl? Like you don't like this isn't going to end well. Come on. I think what it really is the only experience she has had of watching somebody be like the star of the family, the center of in this magazine is Elise. And that is what Elise would do. Elise would take something that is not hers because she thinks it would be best, and Elise would wear those specific earrings. And so I think Adriana just goes, this is the only way I know to be this kind of person. And then when Elise catches her and confronts her on it, I think there's it's a twofold realization. I think at first she realizes that, she has hurt Elise in the way that Elise hurts her, which is the first layer of guilt. But I also think there's still some resentment that starts to build there where, you know, Elise is allowed to treat Adriana like that, but Adriana is not allowed to treat Elise like that, even though Elise would totally do the same thing to her. And so I think that is where part of Adriana's anger towards Elise that comes out later, it's kind of the first realization for her.
That was a very interesting, moment for Adriana when you think, oh, she wouldn't do something like this. But I can understand where she's coming from, where maybe she's thinking, again, she doesn't, there's still a bit of that imposter syndrome and thinking that these
Hmm.
earrings will give her, a bit of a superpower, like that extra boost she needs to
Hmm.
step into this role. Now, after they don't qualify for Worlds, Adriana is subject to Brayden's outburst and walking out. And she later lashes out at her father, saying mom would be ashamed of him. How was that sequence to film and finding that emotional place?
So I called that cry day because I cried at every scene, that whole day. And and yeah, for me, getting to that emotional place wasn't too difficult. Like I'd been with Adriana for several months at that point. I was like, man, girl, that sucks. I feel for you. I would also cry. I think the harder part was trying to maintain that, like, I need to cry for 12 hours today. And you want to be emotionally available for your scene partner for their coverage when the cameras are not on you, but you also need to keep the tears in so they're there for your coverage. And that was not a thing that I had had to do before for a prolonged period of time. So I mean, there were a couple sort of practical things. Of the crew was incredibly kind of being sort of quiet and out of the room when they didn't need to be, and then between takes I would go stand in a corner and think about sad things. And our costume, our woman who did our costumes on set, who had quite a sense of humor, took a photo of me on the corner and was like, Maddie, more like Sadie. And I giggled really hard when I saw that, later, obviously, once we had filmed. But I think being surrounded by such a talented cast and having really great writing in those moments, like, I don't know, there's some words you just can't say without crying. And also, I cry anytime anyone yells at me, and Brayden was yelling at me, so that helps. That helps too.
I know you're all professionals at the end of the day, but I mean, it is quite jarring because, for her, she thought they got into a bit of a better place by then, but here
Mhm.
he goes again and he's blaming her and her family for everything. Throughout the season, like you alluded to, Elise is quite harsh in her comments towards Adriana, accusing her of trying to take her spotlight, undermining her abilities to her face constantly. Even after her comments to the magazine, Adriana doesn't completely ice Elise out. Why does she put up with it for so long until the end of episode 6 after Elise's kiss with Freddie.
Hmm. I think I think it has less to do with her kissing Freddie than she on the surface thinks it does. Like obviously that is a thing that hurts, and I'm sure, you know, Elise would have known what they meant to each other, and so doing something like that is an especially low blow. But I think it's about more than that, and I think part of it is Adriana's confidence level at that point. Like yes, Elise has done this awful thing, but you know, at that point Adriana's going to Worlds. Her relationship with Brayden is kind of like not great, but it's back. And she has just sort of like reconciled with Freddie. And so I think her fears of like her interpersonal relationships, the finances, like she has sort of more stability in that area. And so I think that allows her to have the confidence to say like, don't mess this up for me. Like I have done all these things. All you have done is messed things up for me. I need you. The best thing you could do for me is stay out of my way, really. And she says that harshly, and I think meaning it to be harsh, but also I think it's truthful. She doesn't trust Elise to do more than that.
It's one of those things where it's like if she stays with her any longer, she knows in the back of her mind something will go wrong, and she
Yeah.
can't have that, especially with Worlds around the corner. Can you share some thoughts on Adriana and Riley's friendship and their relationship as friendly competitors? Like, did you
Mhm.
consider how long they'd known each other for and the basis of their female friendship?
Hmm. Well, I mean, Millie being a great friend of mine, we did very little acting in those scenes. It was mostly us just hanging out. No, that's not true. Acting is always acting. But I think I thought a lot about the kind of friendships you would have if you lived in that kind of environment where, you know, you're constantly training. It's not like you're playing intramural volleyball on Wednesdays, you know, like your life is skating. And especially when you take a break from that, it would be hard to maintain the relationships that you have if you only see these friends at skating events and you're no longer skating. And so I think Riley has always been the sort of friend that is like, we don't have to talk every day. We don't have to talk every month. But when we are together, things are good. And I've missed you and I love you. And how have you been? And I think that consistency has meant a lot to Adriana. And I think at times she really takes that for granted, that Riley will just be kind and she will be forgiving and she will just be there. And I think that's a lesson that Adriana still has to learn. But I really loved the fact that, you know, the two women made a point to try not to be pinned against each other and to try to root for each other's success, even if it meant their success meant the other person's lack or downfall. I think they separate competition from their individual relationships, and they are still cheering for each other.
And we see that coming off ice during their skates throughout the season. And I love that scene where they're getting measured by the stylists. And I think
Mm.
it was a really important scene where, you know, Adriana is just reminded of her privilege in a sense, but they do reaffirm
Absolutely.
their friendship. Adriana and Brayden develop a more trusting partnership, and he begins to open up about his family, and they share that passionate kiss at the club.
Mhm.
Take me through her feelings for Brayden as they spend more time together, including during the fake relationship that she initiates.
I mean, I think Adriana and Brayden start to trust each other at the same time. I think Brayden starts to trust Adriana because she holds him accountable. You know, like she in his life, in his background, people kind of let him do whatever he wants. And Adriana doesn't do that. And I think that is jarring to him at times, but I think that is also comforting. And I think for Adriana, once she starts to see that, like, oh, okay, this is someone who cares enough about me to tell me things that he hasn't told anybody else. Like that is the thing that makes her feel safe too. And so I think you know, there's those initial feelings of attraction, of course, when they first meet. But I also think the more important stuff builds throughout that period of time. And so as they start to fake date, like, yes, they're holding hands more and things like that, but more importantly, they're really starting to trust each other and view each other as a team. And I think some of those wires get crossed, and I think she's totally okay with that.
Definitely the lines have started to blur, and they both kind of give into that attraction and that flirtation. The episode 7 scene in Freddie's room. Now that one
Mhm.
was so tender. We hadn't seen that open dialogue and connection between them prior. A lot of glances by Freddie
Yep.
towards Adriana. How was that scene to film with Ollie? And for Adriana, that gesture of kissing his bruises and being in that intimate moment.
Hmm. Oh my gosh, it was a lovely scene to film. Like both Ollie and Kale throughout were incredibly kind and would go in to check. And we also have intimacy coordinators for that, but I want to commend them for being good people and just always checking in on if both of us were comfortable. And I hope I did the same for them. That specific scene was really cool to film. So it's broken up into two different pieces. There's like a scene in the middle in the actual show, but they're like the little penguin dance, that portion of the scene, and then there's the more steamy portion. But we shot it as if it was one scene. We had one camera, and the entire room was lit by candles. So all of the lighting you see is all candles. So cool. Our director Jackie made that choice, and I loved it. But also because we were shooting with just that one camera, it meant nobody else is in the room, and that's really unusual in a film set. Usually there can be tens or hundreds of people there watching something like that. And the whole sequence, I believe when we shot it, was about 8 minutes. So it kind of felt like for Ollie and I, we were doing a little play. And I think there is an intensity of like, I don't want to mess this up. I don't want to have to start this over again. Like if something happens, if we drop a line, like we're going to catch each other and we're going to be in this moment together. And I think that really comes through. I also think it was nice to have, I really liked that they have that sort of emotional moment together too first. I think it makes the entire moment feel a lot safer for the both of them and a lot more comfortable. And then I think it all becomes a little too much once they're interrupted.
For Adriana, like she was the one I like that she was the one who initiated it. Like she asked, "Can I see your bruise?" Like she knew what
Uh-huh.
she was doing
But
there.
but he did kiss her hand first.
It's one of those
But
things
I know
that,
what you mean. Yeah.
but they have been like back and forth like this for so long. But it's been so hard for her because it's all these like mixed signals between both of them. But of course, later on, that it comes to a more positive light, you hope, between them. Brayden does plead his case to give him a
Mhm.
chance at love, but she cannot let Freddie go. How is she interpreting Brayden's asks of her, and does she see it as being genuine?
I think that she believes it is as genuine as he knows how to be at that moment in time. I also think like throughout, Adriana is kind of teaching Brayden how to be vulnerable, and I think she is already at the same level as Freddie. And so if Adriana were to be with Brayden at that point, I think there would be an unequalness in what they are ready for and what they are wanting. Because, if Adriana has to teach him these things and be there for his outbursts, that sucks. That isn't fair to her. And so I think that he truly means that he's going to try his absolute best, but he is not ready for what she is ready for. I also think like Adriana feels that she owes it to her former version of herself who has been wanting this with Freddie for so long to try it. And I know like when they talk about how Adriana has broken their rules and broken them first, I think she feels she is doing it in a different way. Like I think she feels that Brayden's interactions with women are sort of superficial. They don't mean anything to him, and I think in a sense that is true. but her relationship with Freddie carries a lot more weight. And so it feels much more important to her, even though there is an unfairness in that. And I think Brayden is upset that she kind of won't acknowledge that. But what she feels in that moment, I think she has to commit to. She has to follow through on it. And I also understand why Brayden wouldn't take kindly to that.
That was so well articulated because I feel
Thank
like
you.
to an outside perspective, you think, why can't she give this guy a chance? But Freddie is tied so much to, her past. And like you said, those happy moments, even with her mother when she was coaching them together. And she has spent so long kind of going after him that, like you said, she has to see it through, even if it's just for intentional formality purposes at that point. But when she
Mhm.
tells Brayden that he's hot and fun, I was talking to Kale about this, and he doesn't
Mhm.
want to hear it. But for Adriana, she still truly believes that there's this lack of emotional maturity there for her that she can't commit to. They win worlds, but the win is, of course, tainted by Brayden's departure. Yet again, take me through her mixed feelings about that victory, which culminates in that emotional gala skate in her mother's
Mhm.
wings.
Well, I think it really, it all starts in that moment where she does, like she goes to Brayden, she says like, but you're so hot and you're so fun. And I think she does that. She uses those exact words, not because she's trying to lead him on or anything like that, but because that is what's worked in the past. Like there's genuinely those exact words are used when he doesn't want to come down to do the press interviews. She says like, you just have to sit there and look hot. And that was like kind of the first thing that really got him listening, right? And so I think she just goes into it of just like, I this is what I have to do, and I need to make this guy feel okay for this moment, but I don't want to lie to him. And so I think after Camille comes in and he gives the impression that he's ready to go, he's ready for this gala skate. She believes everything's going to be okay, and it kind of reminds me of when I believe it's episode 5 when Brayden is talking to Elise and he just sort of says, like when there's a lot of passion, like things get too hot and we have to take a break and then we cool down and we're back. And I think that was her expectation of what was going to go into this. Like it absolutely, it did it sting that he was mad at her when they were at Worlds. Yes. I think the moment that hurts the most probably would be, they win and he won't give her a hug. And I also think a dynamic that you don't, I guess, see in the angle of the show is like that moment would happen at the kiss and cry, which is what they call it when you're like sitting there and your coaches, but you're on like the Megatron. Everybody in the audience would have seen that she went to hug him and he didn't. And that is an incredibly public rejection that I think she will hold on to for a long time. But I really didn't think that, I don't think Adriana would think that he would stoop even lower to that and like leave her on the ice alone. But of course, the moments when her sisters come out, like I think that is the biggest payoff of the season, even of having two of these girls who she has had difficult relationships with at times, who have both sworn off the ice, do it for her to their mom's song. That was also our last day of filming in Canada, and I would have cried that day regardless. It was very nice that I could do it on camera and didn't have to ruin my makeup unnecessarily. So I think Adriana is feeling this bittersweet of like she got everything that she wanted, everything. Like she got the gold. She's they have figured out a way to keep the house, at least to figure out the financial situation for now. She has Freddie, and yet it still doesn't feel totally right. There is an obligation she feels in her relationship to Brayden that she like, even if they're not together, even if they're not skating together, she wants there to be, even if not a kindness, like a mutual respect, and that isn't there right now. And I think that will eat away at her a little.
And obviously, that comes to a head when at the end, Freddie and Adriana, they do reunite as a nice dance pair and boyfriend, girlfriend, but they walk in on Brayden and Riley rehearsing as another new pair under Voltage. What are her immediate thoughts?
What a good question. I think immediately there is a sense of jealousy, even if she doesn't want it there. I mean, it's the same thing of like, you know, maybe you love your ex and you want them to be so happy with whoever, but like, I don't want to see it. You stay over there. We go over there. And I think that is like just a jarring bit of a shock to her, that she has to commit to. But I also think there is such a sternness in Riley's face in that moment that we have never seen before. Like Riley is not that, almost people pleaser. Let's all be friends, everybody. Kind of chipperness. There is like, this is someone who has come into her own, who has also agreed to whatever this ends up being. And I think, I think Adriana goes, okay, well, I don't have Brayden. I don't even know if I have Riley anymore. But I think in that moment, I think it could look like, but she has Freddie, she's going to be okay. But I think more importantly, she has this relationship that she's feeling very comfortable in, but I think she also has herself, and she has this confidence in her and her abilities that like, okay, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to be able to figure this out. And I love that that's sort of where we end her story.
Hopefully not end her story for forever. Hopefully
please.
Season
That was me
one.
knocking those. Yeah.
Knock on wood. But you did work closely opposite Alexandra, Alice, and Harmon in particular as your on-screen Russo family. What can you say about them as individuals and as scene partners?
I have nothing but good things to say. I mean that from the bottom of my soul. I think that especially when you are filming on a location and you shoot like so many back-to-back days, and I flew in for this. I didn't go home and see my family on the weekends. Like, these were my people, and they still are. And how lucky am I that I get to say that with such a sincerity. I think Harmon is such a kind and thoughtful and playful person. Like I have never seen that man in a bad mood. And it's wonderful to like look at a call sheet and go, oh, I'm gonna have a great day today. Just knowing that I get to be with these people. I think a lot of Will and Adriana's scenes have a fair degree of conflict in them. And Harmon was just so wonderful about all of it. Like, there was never a sense that, like, I don't know, some actors feel like they have to stay in that to do a good performance. And Harmon obviously is a wonderful, talented actor. And it was so much fun to be with him and even have him yell at me. I was still having a good time. And then Alice and Alex, again, the alliteration can get difficult, but I am an only child in real life, and these two are the closest thing I have to sisters, and I am so grateful for that. I think Alice is so playful, and she's silly, and she's sweet, and she has so many ambitions, like in acting, but also aside from acting. She is a talented opera singer, and she wants to go to law school, and I am just so proud of her, and I want to be at her graduation with like a little sign. And I love that in our scenes we just get to play and really like with Maria, Adriana can kind of like set her guard down and relax and be happy. And what a fun thing is that to do. Much rather that than cry. But on the same token, man, I loved crying with Alex. It was great. I loved working with her and being able to really talk between us about like, what do we want for this scene? And what are you thinking in this moment? And Alex is so present in her scenes. Like I feel like I can just move my eyebrow up just like a little bit, and she's going to catch that and she's going to react to it, and it's going to be a whole thing. And it feels real and much more exhilarating to be in that and not know what's going to happen next, but know that that as long as she's there, it's going to be a great scene.
To have such a treat to get to do these scenes with talented scene partners who you know
Mhm.
are giving their all as you are as well. On that note about a season two, if you get renewed, what do you hope to explore with Adriana? And are there any specific storylines you'd like to see more of, or even characters you'd like to interact with more?
Well, I mean, the honest truth of it is if I had good ideas, I would tell the writers and not you, because if I told you, then the writers couldn't use them. Um, but I have to speak a little bit more generally. I am really excited to see what the like Russo Rink slash Voltage collaboration would look like. I'm sure that would mean a whole boatload of new skaters and new dynamics for everybody to interact with. I of course want to know what's going to happen with the love triangle because we're not ending it there. That's not how television works. And I would really, I really want to see Adriana learn a couple more lessons. Specifically, I want I want I want her to be there for Maria more than she is. A lot of their scenes are Maria sort of comforting her, and I want her to be more than just the sister that Elise has been to her with kinder words. I want her to be there more. And I want to see Adriana and Riley find a way to move forward that again feels equal to the both of them. And of course, a couple more kisses in there, like that's got to happen, right? I don't know. And some more skating.
What is a love triangle without a bit of like intimacy and spiciness?
Of
But
course.
I think that there's just so much to explore with this world. How was it filming in France for episode 8 and getting to spend additional time traveling with the girls? Like, what were some highlights for you?
Oh, it was just awful. Hated every moment of it. Would not recommend. It was a dream. It was such a dream. Like I had got this job, and I mean, all of this has been incredible. Like if that was all it was, I would be thrilled. And I don't know. I was maybe maybe a month in after signing my contract. We hadn't started the job, and I got a text that was like, "Any chance you have a valid passport?" I was like, oh, yeah, yes, I do. And if I didn't, I would forge one. I don't know. What do you have planned? And so our interiors are Ontario, and our exteriors are Paris. So we got to Paris, and it was like zoom, 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 all these different locations trying to get all the shots that we needed. So really that ended up being mostly the montage of Adriana and Maria doing fun things, which if you can convince someone to pay you to do fun things in a montage with someone you like, do. It's ideal. It's great. Like there's all of our sightseeing things that we wanted to do done. And then the carousel scene with Freddie, and that was like almost midnight on a rainy Friday night. I don't think you can see the rain as much on camera as it was, but it was like just like drizzling down the whole time, which really added to the ambiance. So of course it was such a dream come true to be able to do. And then yes, so it was me, Alex, Millie, and Nicole, who plays Katya. We spent a week maybe extra in France. We were in Bordeaux for a little while, and we all got a house together, and we just got to spend some time together, and I loved it. I mean, for me particularly, I didn't get to film a lot with Nicole, so we have that sort of one-on-one scene together in the kitchen. We felt that very early on, and then we weren't living in the same place, and a lot of the group scenes are busy. So I really valued being able to spend some more one-on-one time with her. Like what a cool, wonderful person that she is. And I think in general, like, I've been acting for a while, but again, this is my first big thing. And I know from talking to people that like sometimes you finish a show and what felt like a really important experience at the time, like kind of fades away and people go back into real life. And so I think spending this time together, choosing to spend it together, and just like reaffirming like, you guys mean as much to me as I mean to you, was so lovely, and a great way to kind of fade out our time on season 1.
almost like a second wrap party. And I love that
Oh,
you got to
yes.
spend that time together though. And it's so important to enjoy, you know, being in the company of the
Mhm.
people that you work with. Speaking of, you mentioned an intimacy coordinator, Matea Kennedy. Tell me about working with Matea in season one for your scenes, and given your experience, the importance of this role in productions.
So her name is pronounced Mattia. I also read it as Matea the first time, but I want to correct that for her. Um, she was lovely. This was my first time working with an intimacy coordinator. I'd had to like do on-screen kisses before, but not this many. And and I think she did a really great job of demystifying those moments because I think like it's not a thing that we talk about very freely. And especially to break down like I want your mouth to go here and move in this way and this speed and intensity, that's kind of weird. But I think she broke it down in a way that felt approachable. She made it feel like there were no bad questions, and that her job was solely to make sure that we felt comfortable and we had a good dynamic both with each other, but also with the director and what the teams were looking for. And I really think everybody went above and beyond to make sure that we always felt comfortable and safe, and that it was an easy thing to do. And so I am thrilled that intimacy coordinators are getting the respect they deserve and that they are included on more and more projects. I hope that they're included in every project that has physical intimacy. And yeah, I couldn't recommend Mattia enough. She was great.
I apologize to Mattia for pronouncing her
That's
name
so
wrong,
fine. I'm sure.
but I'm so glad that you had a positive experience, because it's so important to for an actor to do their job, to want to act with passion and
Mm.
intensity, but also like intention and making sure everyone feels comfortable on set. How was your experience working with your showrunner, Jeff Norton, your directors, and the creative team? Like, did you adapt to their working style, and was it very collaborative on set?
It was so collaborative, and it was so. I mean, I've just been saying good things, but I promise I mean them all. Um, like my best example is, so we had two directors on the project. We had a director named Shamim, and we had a director named Jackie. And Shamim we started calling Shamam. I think that summarizes our relationship. And we started calling Jackie the fourth Russo sister. So I mean, working with them was great. I think both of them as female directors, as writer directors, really took me under their wing. Shamim specifically would let me hang out behind the monitors when I wasn't filming, when it wasn't my scene, instead of being in my trailers, and would let me ask questions and ask my opinion on things. And Jackie would break down the way that she wrote certain things and why. And again, Jeff Norton, our showrunner, and so for anyone who may not know, our directors, we split up how many directors we have so that they can go and start editing episodes while we're also still shooting, to get everything done fast enough for a TV schedule of like one season a year or something like that, depending. And our showrunner is sort of the creative brain behind it all to piece everything together. And working with Jeff was wonderful. I would often go to him and be like, okay, Jeff, you can totally say no to me, but I have an idea. What can I pitch this to you? And he was always open to hearing my ideas, and said no quite a few times, which is so fine and normal. I am new to this. I don't know what I'm doing. And but what I want to highlight, and I was talking to him and his wife about this the other day. He would always explain to me why. He would never discredit my ideas. He would say, like, I understand where you're coming from. Have you thought about this? And it really felt like he was kind of taking me under his wing and saying, like, you know what, Maddie, one day you're going to be a showrunner and you're going to have to think about these things. And let's start practicing that now. And yeah, it was really an environment where nobody was certain that they had the best idea, and they were totally open to hearing out others, and just that everyone could come together and try to make it a little bit better.
I love that with Jeff. It's like he didn't just say like, nope, bad idea. Like he took the time to explain to you, and it's so important as part of the
Yeah,
process. And I'm glad you kind of got to shadow a bit, future
totally.
notes for your future projects behind the
Yeah.
scenes. Thank you so much for sharing. I have one more question, our signature question. If you could be any ice cream flavor, which would you be and why?
I knew this one was coming. I My favorite is black cherry ice cream, and I'm a little bit allergic to it. It like kind of makes my mouth swell up a little bit. So I guess I wonder if I was black cherry ice cream, maybe I could enjoy it more. Maybe I would also die. I don't know, but it might be a risk that I'm willing to take for this hypothetical question.
Just a little bit of danger involved in your answer. We want that to happen, but I like the flavor as well. Madeline, it's been such a treat to hear more about your time on the show and, of course, how you embodied Adriana. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you so much. Like, truly, I said this before we started recording, but like, these have been the most thorough and insightful questions that I have had so far. Granted, I haven't had a lot of interviews yet. This is still all new to me, but I just want to say thank you for the time and the thought that you put into these, because these are questions that I have had throughout the process. And so I just want to celebrate you and your team for working so hard. So thank you so much.
I hope we get to catch up and again, and fingers crossed for a second
Please.
season. But until then, for all those watching, make sure to catch Madeline as Adriana Russo in Finding Her Edge. Season 1 is out now on Netflix. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
And also subscribe to the Permanent Rain Press, please.